So where did we get to last time? You saw me spray the tank up. You saw me mounting that fuel filter bracket. And I've fitted the fuel filter, as you can see there, and the hoses. But what I'm going to do now is flip the tank upside down and put some fuel in it. I want to see if any of those unions leak or the filter leaks anywhere. Might as well do this now before it's on the car. So that's 3 litres in it. Let's have a look if that's leaking. Looks as dry as a bone. So we get the fuel tank back in here. We'll get the large 12mm hose connected to that side of the fuel pump. And then I think we'll fill the tank with fuel, get some power into that fuel pump and see if we can get some fuel circulating across the system. Around the system. And what I'll need to do is just do a loop from these 2 hoses so we're not running through the engine, as it were. Because I'm not firing it up. So we'll do a bit of copper tubing between here and here and see if we can get some sort of circulation going. That's quite exciting. And then we should get the return line spewing out high pressure fuel, really. So there's a fuel pump mount all sorted. I took this bumper bracket back off and welded it all up properly and then sprayed it up. Right, so we've got a negative and positive going to the battery. Obviously the negative's not connected yet because I don't want the pump to run. So let's get the fuel tank in position and get some fuel in it. Right, that's everything connected. Let's move to the back of the car now. So we're going to bypass the engine for now. So we've got fuel coming in this way and we'll send it back this way without going through the engine. Right, let's link the fuel feed and return together now. So we've just created a loop, as it were. Okay, we've fueled up. We've got the fuel return line in place. We've got the connections in place. There's no leaks from any unions or hose ends. So let's see if she works, eh? Something happening. You can hear the fuel coming back in through the return line there. So that's good. That's worked perfectly, absolutely perfectly. So thanks again to those people who suggested protecting the coolant tubes. That's exactly what I've done. I've made up a couple of removable under trays, aluminium, 3mm. They just bolt on and off, and that will give me quite a bit of peace of mind, I think. Yeah, great suggestion, guys. Thanks very much. I'm curious actually to see how low that under tray sits, so I'm going to put the front wheels on and get the car on the floor and let's have a little look. What I'd also like to do is get this outside today just so it can experience a bit of fresh air. So there we go. Nice to see it in the sunshine. The ground clearance looks really good on the coolant pipes or coolant tubes. Let me show you that. That's absolutely fine. That's going to be it's going to be perfect, I think. I mean, the front and back are going to come down a little bit because of the weight of the glass and once the interior's in and everything else. But yeah, pretty pleased with that, I think, as I always say. Got to fabricate the exhaust system up. Got some nice clearance on the sump there. That's because I tilted or angled the engine and gearbox up a few degrees for clearance. Quite a nice stance, I think. Shame I can't drive it like that, really. It looks like a Mad Max vehicle. Anyway, nice to see it outside. So, front bumper on, lights in place. Unfortunately, I think I'm going to have to cut the bumper in half and narrow it by 1 inch. It kind of sticks out a little bit too far each side, which isn't ideal, but there we go. Unless I build the arches out, that might be an easier option. Fans in place. We've got some nice ducting up to the radiator now, or there's going to be ducting in there. So now the fuel system's pretty much done. What I've been doing is kind of trying to align the front wing. The mounting points aren't quite right, so I've just been fiddling around with that. But the main job, I've been trying to find the correct lambda sensors. Pre and post cat lambda sensors. That's taken a bit of time to sort out. And I was missing a little bit of a harness here too for the lambda sensor. So that's good, that's sorted. And then I've got to fabricate an exhaust system. So I've got that bit there, and oh yeah, that's off a Porsche Turbo 996. That's the cat section, that's the muffler. So I might cut them up. I've got this. You probably saw that in my previous videos, that exhaust manifold. Probably going to cut that up as well and join the two somehow. So yeah, plenty to think about. Right, this is going to seem a little bit mad, but I fancy getting the car running, getting some coolant in it, and I don't know, I'm feeling a bit flat with it at the minute. Maybe getting things connected up and seeing it run might give me a second wind over the winter period. What do you reckon? Let's give it a go. So in order to get this car running, I need to connect the fans up to the ECU, which is there. I need to connect the harness to the engine with a couple of connectors there. I need to get some fuel in the fuel tank, amongst a million other things. So yeah, let's see if we can get it running. That'll be an exciting day's work. Need to get some coolant in the system. So don't think I'm going to be able to have the ECU in that location for now, just because of the way the harness plugs fall around the engine. I've got the main engine harness there, and that needs to plug into those two plugs there. And I've also got alternator plug and a starter motor plug as well, and other bits and bobs. So I think I'm going to have to make a hole just there or down there in the fiberglass and run the cables through so the ECU sits on the back seat area. So what I'm thinking of doing, instead of cutting whacking great holes there and there, just thought the problem through a little bit more slowly. I think I'm going to run the cable conduit down there. That'll follow the chassis rail down there quite nicely. Whoop. Focus, focus, focus. And I think I'm going to just have it going through there, the hole, which, if I have done this correctly, is going to come out there somewhere. So I think that will lend itself well just to having the ECU on the floor, the area there behind the seat, rather than on the back seat area, which I think is going to look pretty ugly if I do that. So I was just giving that idea a bit of a dry run before I drill any holes, just to see whether I could get that conduit up inside the upright and the harness connectors. And it all seems to fit really well, actually. So I'm glad I didn't just rush and start drilling holes everywhere. I think I'm going to have to extend the lambda plugs a little bit, but that's okay. So that's what I'm going to do. I'll run that nice and neatly down the inside of the chassis rail, I think. Yeah, cut the bottom part off that grommet, sanded down that section, which you saw me do, opened that hole up there. That's a 75mm hole there now, or 72mm. Perfect. Happy with that. Let's get the harness in. that's one side of the loom. Let me show you the other. So I've got a little bit of slack there to pull up. It's coming out the side there, running up that chassis member. And popping out of there. So that's pretty good, nice and tidy. Now to wire it all up. So I need a little bit of wire to wire the ECU up with the fans and some other bits and bobs. What I thought I'd do is pull apart the old wiring loom for the Type 3, which came with the car, which I'm not going to be using. So yeah, spaghetti junction. So all the wires are in position. We've got the fan wires running to the ECU. We've got the fuel pump wires. One positive runs to the ECU and the negative runs to the negative of the battery. We've got the starter motor on this, which is working all right. Coolant cam. So we've got 5 litres of coolant, 5 litres of water so far. There's not a single leak from what I can see anywhere, which is encouraging. The little bleed screw that I put on the front here has worked well. Just got a bit of air out of there, well, quite a lot of air actually, and then a nice flow of coolant. So I think we should turn the car over and get some oil pressure up, but not let it fire up just yet. Right, let's turn the old ignition switch on. Fuel pump's just primed, as you probably heard. Let's turn her over, see what happens. Why aren't you firing? Do we have a spark? Do we have a spark? We have a spark, which can only mean fuel. Let's check the fuel, shall we? Right, let's see if we've got any fuel pressure. Let's see if we've got any fuel coming out of it. There's no fuel up the top, which is interesting. So it appears I've got no fuel to the engine at the minute. When I turn the ignition on, the fuel pump primes, but the fuel's not getting right up to the back of the engine. So I'm going to bypass the ECU for now and just kind of manually stick some power into the fuel pump, and we'll see if we can get some fuel coming out of that, coming out the back there. Well, this is slightly embarrassing. I seem to have got my hoses muddled up. So I've just taken the return hose off, and massive amount of pressure behind there. So I think I might have got my hoses muddled up there, which is really surprises me. Anyway, such is life. Let's try swapping them hoses around, see if it starts. So this is where I seem to have messed up. I've got these hoses round the wrong way. Oh, let's swap them over and see what happens. So Andy's handy tip. Don't mix your fuel feed and return lines up, because your engine won't start. So let's give it another go, shall we? So it should prime up properly this time now. Got my fuel lines back in, swap the fuel and return hoses around underneath. I might need to stick a little bit of extra silencer on the back here, because it might be too noisy, but let's fire it up and see what happens. Hopefully it'll work now. Let's give it a go. So, fuel pump primed. Sounding better. Let's see if we start, okay? That's a negative. Here we go again. Oh, that's quite loud. I'm back probing the throttle position sensor. I was getting like a fluctuating reading on the signal wire. So take a look at this. It's like 5.16 volts going into the throttle position sensor. But look what happens when I push the barometric sensor all the way in. It drops down to 1.18 volt, and I think that's the problem. I've got a 5 volt input into that, but that drops down. I'll take the sensor out and go back up to 5.1, so I'm not sure if that's the wrong sensor or what's going on. Not too sure. So signal wire, run out of hands again. Baseline 0.5 of a volt. Accelerate. Barometric sensor plugged in, 0.1 of a volt. Pull it out, baseline goes up to 0.5. So let's try starting it with the without the barometric sensor, see if that makes a difference. And actually, this is the perfect time to see if the clutch works with the engine running, because I haven't tried it yet. Go. Nice to see the car running. The next job is going to be to chop up the exhaust system and get that working properly. The lambda probes aren't plugged in yet because they're on the wrong side of the engine, or I get extended wiring on the lambda probes, so that's going to take some thought, but great. The engine's working, fuel system's working, coolant system's working.